God, it's been probably what, at least 5 years since I've seen you in person?
Yeah, because, dude, I still remember the last time that I was in the States or that I played a show with Boombox. It was one of those, what were they called? The run thing?
Oh, yeah, the run things. I remember that.
Yeah. But it was back in Pittsburgh.
That was the last one you played in the States?
That was the last one I played. And then I think I flew into to Monterey like the next day or something, like on that same weekend.
Wow.
For my birthday, and then the whole visa stuff happened.
yeah. And I mean we'll get into all of that.
I mean that was you were there, right?
Yeah. I mean I definitely played some of those run events with you guys because we did a few of them. I know we did one in San Diego together that I remember.
Yeah, I remember that one too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's basically 5 years. It's gonna be 5 years in August.
That's so crazy, man. Because I can still remember like when it first happened and when it was like, what? Like he can't come back?
Oh my God, dude! It was so bad. It was so bad back then.
But yeah, I mean, we'll get into all of that. But it's just good. Yeah. It's just good to see you, man. And you're out in Monterey now. And is Monterey where you grew up as well?
Yeah, I grew up here. I was born in Mexico City, but I grew up here basically my entire life. I lived in Vermont for 1 year when I was 15. It was just like one of those exchange years.
Oh, yeah.
And, those Minnesota, 2 years in Minnesota, 1 year in LA, but I was already, like past my 20s. So
right.
Doesn't really count as growing up, I suppose.
Are you where you're at right now? Is it close to where you grew up?
Yeah, actually it's like stupid close. It's like maybe 3 minutes drive.
Oh, wow.
Like it's one of those cities that it's like, the way that it's distributed is just like, it doesn't make sense, but it kind of works, I guess.
What do you mean?
Like you have cities like for example, like Spain, or like in Spain, all the European cities that have like a downtown and like everything is sort of built like around that main area.
Yeah, right.
There's like a shitload of main areas around here. It's like, it doesn't make sense.
Like squares.
The main streets are just weird. Yeah. It's funny, but growing up with it just kind of like, oh, like this makes sense.
Sure, of course. Normal. Well, I mean, if you grow up there, then that's just all you know. Is it for you, being back there now, do you kind of see the city with different eyes? Like, does it feel different from when you grew up there?
No, not really. Like, not a whole lot has changed, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I just want to make a point here. I do not think that Spain is a city. I was trying to say that cities in Spain or like Barcelona or Madrid or whatever. That's it.
No, that's a good correction. I actually totally even missed it. You said that. So
yeah, I'm glad. I was like cities like in Spain,
Yeah,
but whatever.
Yeah, it's just a big city.
But I really like it out here. It's well, at least right now the rhythm of life is obviously like super slow, but it's where a lot of my friends are, and for this whole 5 years, it's been a good opportunity to just reaffirm those like friendships or like anything with my family, or just grow as a producer.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely,
personally.
man. Is Monterey, out of the big cities in Mexico, what's the character? What's like the stereotype of Monterey? Is it like the chill city? Is it the party city? What's the vibe there?
It's like, I guess Mexico City is just so wild that it takes up all the stereotypes.
Yeah,
but here in Monterey, the rest of the country sees Monterey as like the LA of Mexico, like in the bad sense, like, oh, like people are like fake and just shit like that. And and obviously in the good sense that there's a lot of opportunity out here.
Right.
There's a lot, mostly in the industrial side rather than like the artistic side, but
yeah, no, that's interesting.
I mean, Mexico City is still gonna beat everyone at everything.
I mean, Mexico City is
whether
an
it's good or
incredible
bad
place. Yeah, I love
crazy.
Mexico City. I've never been to Monterrey
too,
though,
man.
so I'm always curious about the spots I've never hit. And for you, you know, going back to you and growing up there, what brought your family there in the first place? Like, what did your parents do? What are kind of your memories of early times in Monterrey?
Yeah. So, you know, like I said, I was born in Mexico City. My dad was at the moment, he's still an orchestra conductor.
Oh, okay.
He's been literally my entire life. Hence the reason why I studied like classical piano and stuff like that.
You studied that early
since
on?
a very early age. Yeah, like super early on, like it started at 5, but we'll get back to that. I think it was, I don't think I'm wrong here, but obviously could be. I think it was one of those moments where it was like a job opportunity for my dad, and it kind of like made sense to move out here. He's from Monterrey, but my parents met back in Mexico City.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
You know, they got married, blah blah. Then I think they lived here for a little bit. Then my dad got a job offer in Mexico City, went over there. I was born, and then like maybe a year or two into that, he got another job offer out here. So came back.
Sure. And for conductors and orchestra musicians and all that, I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's kind of similar to, you know, almost like a professor job where you kind of have to just go where the work is, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's actually currently in the Philharmonic Orchestra of Jalisco, which is like Guadalajara, basically.
Yeah.
You know, he got this offer like probably a year and a half ago or something. And at first he was trying to, you know, stay back here in Monterrey because, you know, he's like 60. So he doesn't want to be doing all that traveling or
right.
like on one side, he doesn't want to be doing all the traveling. And on the other side, he doesn't really he doesn't want to not live at his house, right?
Of course. Yeah. I mean,
like it's like that's the normal. That's his wavelength, I guess.
Well, and that's an interesting point, right? Is for any musician in any discipline, at a certain point, as we get older, you kind of have to reprioritize, right? And say, like even for what we do, like a touring DJ, you know, which is way more of like a rock star kind of position. At a certain point, I mean, I'm sure you've talked to as many of our peers as I have. You know, people get sick of being on the road all the time. People want to be home. People want to have a regular life.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, he ended up moving out there. You see, he still has the house out here, but obviously he can't come around for the time being right now. Right. Coronavirus.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, that's changing everything. But when you were little, was it important to him that you have a musical education, a musical background?
I think it was like the most important thing for him. He's not, well, I mean, when I was growing up, I guess he was a little harsher, but like he's super chill now. And at the moment when I was, you know, 5 to, I literally studied music from when I was 5 till I guess I'm still studying it.
Of course.
Probably. But when I was, he was very strict with like you need to practice your piano. I don't think he wanted me to become like a classical piano player, but he definitely wanted me to have like for example, right now, I am not the greatest piano player, but like everything just kind of makes sense in my head. Like it's like I don't even know how to describe it. Like I'll just hear something and it's like, yeah, that's like a minor 7th chord with like a fucking 9th or something. Like it just kind of like in my head, it makes sense. And I know that's what he wanted for me
Right.
to happen, or like to happen
Well,
with me.
absolutely. I mean,
suppose.
because music is a language, right? And it's the same
Yeah.
way we think about our spoken language. It's not like you and I talking. We're not analyzing every single word we're saying. It just comes to us naturally, right?
It just comes to us. Exactly.
Yeah.
I like that analogy a lot. I'm going to start like applying it from literally now on.
Perfect. Let's do it.
I like it.
No, it's good, man. And
because
I think it's
I
true.
never had the capacity to I guess sort of explain that idea in a way that like just anybody could understand. So thanks for the analogy.
Oh, hey, anytime. That's what I'm here for, baby.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. I was going to ask you while you were talking is, how much of that, and we talked about it a little bit, how much of that goes into the way you write music now? Because, obviously having a compositional background is going to help you in any form of music that you make. But especially for dance music, electronic music, where another part of it is kind of experimenting and it's sound design and it's, sort of pushing boundaries that maybe don't have as much to do with the classical composition side of it. I guess I wonder, when you sit down to write a song now, how does it usually start for you? Does it start with a melody? Does it start with an idea, a sound?
Sometimes, I'm sure it goes the same way for you. Like sometimes I will have a chord progression in my head or like I'm just sort of singing something in my head. Like maybe it could be a melody, or maybe it could be, the chord progression, or I will hear a sound. I'll be going through like my samples or like through splice or something, and I'll just find a sound, and like instantly in my head, I'm like boom, okay, like I have these like 16 bars that I need to lay out. But it's like, it's so weird how it's like in a matter of 3-5 seconds, I already know like kind of what I want to do with this sound. And, obviously I will take the sound and kind of like, play with it, chop it or whatever, distort it, this, that, blah, blah. Like if I'm using a sample, I want it not to sound like the original sample.
Right.
And,
you always want to obscure it or kind of just make it your own, right?
Yeah. That goes mostly for, all the harder stuff, like the EDM stuff. As to when I'm writing something more poppy, I will try to, make an interesting chord progression, something that I wouldn't normally listen, or I don't know. If I'm remixing something, I will literally change the entire chord progression because, if it's a remix, I want it to sound completely like a remix, not just like if I edit it on top of the original song.
Of course, yeah. When
I think a completely
it's
different world, I guess.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think it's also kind of leaning into your strengths, right? Like I think one thing Boombox Cartel, for example, has become known for is, that mix of the heavy stuff with the very melodic, like really interesting chord progressions. I think that's one thing that makes Boombox stand super far out. And maybe that comes from your background compositionally,
Perhaps. Yeah. I mean, I'll take it.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to have an answer for it. I think a lot of this it just comes down to personality and life experiences and yeah.
It's funny. Like people say this sounds so Boombox Cartel, and I'm like, what is a Boombox Cartel sound? Like to me, it's just like.
Well, because it's just you, I think it's, you're not
like,
supposed to know.
I don't identify myself like with a specific sound or something. It's like, it's not the sound. It's like the way that it's mixed down and like the way that it's mastered and blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, like that's kind of cool. Like I guess we have created a style for us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That even if it's like, you have Moon Love, which is like this like heavy fucking song. And then you have something like the How to Love remix that are completely in like two completely different spectrums of the electronic music world. but people will still say like, it's just like, it's got that thing. And it's like, what is that thing? I don't even know what the thing is, but apparently you do. So
right.
I guess thank you.
And some of that is probably the push pull between you and Americo too, right? Because
yeah, definitely.
It's sort of the intersection, right, of like your two tastes and your two styles of writing and even mixing and mastering, because
yeah, obviously, I mean, everyone's got like their own little world inside their head, so that's definitely why the music just sounds so, I guess so weird wouldn't be the word, but it's just like it's got a whole lot of Americo, it's got a whole lot of Jorge, and
yeah, well,
it's all about bouncing back and forth, the ideas.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think, not to get too philosophical about it, but this just occurred to me. I think it's got you and it's got him, but it's also got your guys' relationship, right? So not only are you and he evolving as musicians and producers over time, but then also the way you work together is evolving over time. And so I think from a listener perspective, not that a lot of people are consciously thinking about this, but I almost think they're hearing sort of your guys' relationship evolve as well as hearing you guys evolve as musicians.
Yeah, it's definitely not like a conscious thought where you're like, oh, like you won't break your head around that, that idea. It's like, oh, like, but why?
Oh yeah, none
like,
none
I
of
got to know.
Not at all. But and speaking of Americo, when did you meet him? How long ago did you know him?
I met him through a mutual friend out here in Monterey. 9 years ago. I was 18 and our friend, he invited me over to carne asada, grill out at Americo's spot. And at this moment, I already knew what Americo was doing through Facebook, and he already knew what I was doing. At the moment, I was basically just getting into production, and he was already making like Moombaton and stuff like that.
And were you guys DJing around town?
I was DJing. I was DJing at some clubs out here.
What was that experience like? Just on a quick side note, what's DJing a club in Monterey before you turn 18? Like, what kind of clubs? What kind of music? What was the scene?
Oh no, I was 18, so.
Okay, or when you were 18, but yeah, just like what were those early DJ experiences like?
There was a lot of, I remember like Titanium by David Guetta being big back then.
Still a big
there was
song.
There was a lot of like, sort of like big progressive house stuff. There was a lot of reggaeton, a lot of hip hop, like Jason Derulo.
Yeah. So these were like party gigs at the time.
Yeah, it was literally party gigs, or maybe like front room, sort of, not main room, but like side room, just playing lounge, stuff like that. Just to get like, maybe like $100 or something.
Yeah, of course.
Which, dude, when you're 18 and like you have no income, it's pretty good money, man.
Oh, I mean, it's great money. And just the idea that someone will pay you anything to DJ. That's a crazy thought when you're just starting off.
Let's fucking do it. You're damn right.
Yeah, because it's shit. I mean, if you're anything like me, it's shit you were already doing for fun anyway, right?
Exactly. You're already having a good time, so might as well just fucking get paid for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there a thought in your mind about that it could be a career eventually?
Not at the moment. Because it was just DJing. Like I was like, this is cool. Like this is fun. I was just starting to get into the production side. Like I remember my first song ever. I looked up like what the fuck is sidechain compression, and that just like made everything so much better. And I remember the first song that I ever made was I was literally trying to impress my dad. Do you know Carmina Burana?
Yeah.
Okay,
the
opera. I sampled it and I like chopped it like here and there on like an electro house song with like all those Vengeance sort of sounds, like very Spencer and Hill,
Oh, that's great.
And I showed him. He was like, oh, like, is that Carmina Burana? And I was like, yeah. He was like, that's cool, man. Like, I like that. And I was like, okay, fuck yeah. Like, I could actually do something with this. And then, you know, I started sort of learning more and more and more. And then Minnesota happened. And, you know, I started learning even more so with Americo. Because, you know, at the moment he'd already been producing for like 4 years or 3 years or something. So he had a pretty good head start. So I started learning a whole lot with him. He was very into sound design, still is.
Yeah, no, I know he geeks out about that kind of stuff. And
yeah, he's good.
It must have been cool, yeah, to sort of learn that together and to be young and in a new place. Because you guys went to, am I right that it was music school in Minnesota?
Yeah, we went to McNally Smith, which no longer exists. So this is not an ad.
R.I.P.
So yeah, we went.
Why there? Why Minnesota? How did that happen?
Okay, so I applied, you know, to all the cool kid schools. Not cool kid, rich kid, I guess.
Yeah.
Like Berkeley, Juilliard, fucking. I even applied to Full Sail. And I got accepted at Full Sail, but it was like so fucking expensive, man. It's like education in the States is stupid expensive. Whatever. That's not the subject.
Oh no, but it's true, man. I mean, I guess I don't even know is higher education. How does that work in Mexico? Like if you go to university in Mexico, it's not like fully funded, right? Like it's not free.
There's you know, scholarships,
right,
stuff like that for, you know, all the smart kids. I don't think there's such a thing as student loans out here. I could be completely wrong. Like there's probably some sort of program, but I don't think it's as harsh as, you know, how it is in the States. And, you know, I'm saying this in like I could be wrong because I never had anything to do with a college out here. Therefore, I have absolutely no idea. But
well, I mean, nobody is better at you know, making everything about money than the United States.
Yeah, I suppose
there's no question about that.
I mean, it's not like there's so many public colleges, and also there's a lot of private ones, and like if you put side to side like the top colleges in Mexico and the top like the Ivy League in the States, the price range is just like fuck it. It's crazy.
Of course.
How expensive it is in the States.
Yeah.
And you know, basically if you go to, I don't know, like Ohio State, which is like a pretty good college, I suppose, or I guess, it will probably be about as expensive as if you go to a private one out here.
Yeah, I would believe that. That sounds about right to me. And so you ended up at Minnesota. It was just cheaper, or did you get a scholarship?
It was cheaper. I wasn't eligible. Yeah, eligible for a scholarship because I was foreign.
Oh, right. What did you think about going to Minnesota? You know, Minnesota is like such a unique place in the States.
It's so cold.
Yeah, there's that.
It's so cold, man. It was nice. It was very, I guess, very relaxed. Like not a whole lot going on, really.
Yeah.
Like coming from a city that, you know, is kind of, you know, moving up and down all the time. I guess it was a good moment for like introspection and like, you know, sort of focus on what I was doing there, which is not something I did.
What did you do?
I did study. Like one of the things that really sucked for me is that I went into like first semester and I was in piano 1 and I was like, no, like I want to be in piano 5. Like this is way too beginner for me. And it was those sort of things that started happening. And like, I couldn't jump to the other one, even if I took like a test or whatever. Like I just didn't want to really study anymore because I didn't feel like I was actually learning something.
Right.
And then I told my dad, like, dude, like this is what's happening, and I'm not really into I'm not really learning what I expected I was going to. So that was the first semester. During the second semester, I literally I wouldn't skip class necessarily, but I was just like, I was unmotivated. Like I didn't want to really study that stuff anymore because the direction of the program wasn't really what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Therefore, I, YouTube Academy or with Americo or with, whoever else I had a chance to work with, I started learning from them or by myself. And after the second semester, I told my dad, like, dude, this isn't working out. Like, I'm not going to make you pay all this money for this school that I'm not really, taking advantage of. And it's...
How did he feel about that?
He was okay with it. Like, I told him, like, give me 1 year to, make something happen with Boombox. That was 6 months into Boombox, by the way.
Okay, so you guys started Boombox out in Minnesota.
December of, what would be 2012? Yeah. I told my dad, like, give me 1 year to make something out of this. And if not, I'll just come back. It doesn't matter. Like, I'll go to school back in Mexico and, I'll have music on the side and, I'll become a fucking engineer, something.
Right. Was it when you went to college initially when you kind of thought that you wanted to make music into, a career?
It was, my dad had a big role to play there. Both my parents really, but mostly my dad. He, I was looking into, architecture, which is something I really, I've always liked it, mostly because my he's an architect. So I sort of have this like appreciation for it. Engineering, not necessarily audio engineering, but the whole industrial engineering or, just numbers were interesting to me. It was fun. And my dad was like I get it. You're good at this, you're good at that, but like the only thing you're like really, really good at is music. Like, why don't you study music? And that doesn't happen ever. Like,
no,
when is your dad gonna fucking tell you, like, hey, you should be a musician, you should be a producer? Like what? That shit literally does not happen.
Oh,
ever.
no, dude, I talked to so many people for this show.
It's completely unheard of.
It's the reverse of every other story.
Exactly. So he was encouraging me to, follow this talent that I had, developed throughout the years. We're talking about 14 years of like music development at the time, whether it was playing piano or guitar or singing or like playing the fucking tuba, which I did. And nice. I don't have pictures, but I swear I did.
Tuba's a good one, man.
Tuba is interesting, definitely. So yeah, he really encouraged me to, look into it. So I did. I started looking up, stuff, like I said, to apply to like Berkeley, to apply to Juilliard, to apply Full Sail, blah, blah, blah. And then it was when Americo, I knew that he was already in Minnesota. So I was like, yo, like, what's up with this school? And the rest is history.
Right. And so once you started that year, once you left school, how did Boombox evolve for you guys? Because I know I became aware of you guys maybe earlier than some because of our mutual friend and sometimes business partner, Conrad.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was playing me. I mean, he was both of our managers at one point, is still my manager. And he was playing me early songs from you guys well before anything really popped off. And I was very interested because, I mean, not only it was good, but, I grew up in Minnesota and I didn't really know of anyone in Minnesota who was doing interesting stuff at the time.
Yeah, like I think the only people that I knew around there that were like, at the moment doing something interesting, it was like Gigamesh.
Yeah, shout out to Gigamesh, absolutely.
Yeah. Still,
he's
still,
great.
still vibe to his stuff, definitely. And I literally cannot recall anyone else. There's probably someone or like a couple of people. I
Well,
remember.
there's people in the techno scene. Minnesota's always had a really good techno scene.
Yeah, I wasn't into it back then. Now I am.
Yeah, there's people like DVS1 and a few other people who have just been holding it down there for forever. But that's kind of a whole nother world. Yeah. And were you guys were you playing locally in Minnesota? Like what was the evolution to get, start out in Minnesota, you form the group, you make some songs. Take us through, getting up to the point of like when Back to You really dropped and first started popping off. Because I think those early years are really interesting.
Yeah. So the way that we started getting, a chance in the shows or whatever was I reached out to Alex Toffler, who is the promoter at TC Dubstep, Twin Cities Dubstep. I don't know if they're still, going or not, but
I think they are.
So I reached out to him and I showed him some of my electro house stuff, and I think that was when Boombox had maybe like one song or two, probably. I remember it was Cold, which is like 8 months out of the year in Minnesota.
Yeah, exactly.
And he was like, I think the reason why I showed him all this stuff is because I wanted to play at a more Fusting show. So ended up playing at this show and, ended up playing a bunch of other shows individually.
Right.
And sort of started creating this relationship with these guys. And, they would invite us, me and Americo, to, just the green room or whatever to like meet the other artists. Which was a pretty nice opportunity always. And then our first show was Nata Strum and Kill Paris show, where we played the side room.
Right.
We played like a 10 p.m. side room set, and that was like literally. There's pictures of that. I was so skinny, man. Like what happened to me?
Hey, man, we're all getting older. It's all right.
From there on, we started, playing a little more here and there, and then like it would be like a show in Fargo or like a show in Wisconsin or like here and there, just like whatever popped up, just try to get the name out there. So started getting shows here and there, and like in the Midwest. And then I think our first fly-in show was in Seattle. And
was this all before Back to You really popped off?
This was all before Back to You. Yeah, this was still like, Minnesota living.
So this was, you were just grinding it out, like putting out songs with blogs, remixes.
Yeah, like the festival trap remixes. I remember one that we made that got a whole lot of attention. We made a Mercer one. Was it Mercer? I think Mercer remix. We made a Showtech one. The Showtech one was when I think Adventure Club started following us. And it was probably like a year into the project, and we were like, fuck yeah. This is a big deal at the time. Yeah. It's a big deal, especially when you're like up and coming. And, the guys at Adventure Club have been doing it for a really long time, had been doing it at the moment too. So yeah, that started, building, kind of like credibility and a relationship. And then I remember like 2013, like April or something, I went to Tomorrow World over in Atlanta with my brother. And I remember Hero Bust played some of our songs, shout out Hayden. And I remember Brills also played some of our songs in the main stage. And I was like, this is fucking dope. Like we're actually, on these people's radar, and things are starting to sort of fall into place.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that gives you sort of the purpose of why you're doing it, right? Because when you start, you're just excited and you're trying to do everything you can. But it's not until you kind of get that external recognition from the scene or from people who are just farther along the path than you, then I think you can really start to understand sort of what the next steps should be, how you fit into the bigger picture, all that kind of thing.
Yeah. And then it was, a lot of stuff happened in the, in between. Had a manager. Then we started working with Conrad. And then we were looking at, different spots. And Americo took this like super important decision. Like, dude, like, fuck this shit. Let's go to LA. Like, this is the moment to go to LA. That was literally when Back to You had been released. And like, you could see that it was going somewhere.
Yeah.
And so we went over to LA. We started working with Mark Needham in a project that he had. For those who don't know who Mark Needham is, he is a super well recognized mix engineer and producer who has worked with like Imagine Dragons and just the big boys.
Yeah. More on the pop rock side.
Yeah, exactly.
But
More
he's kind of done everything.
Side. Yeah. And so we started, we for like a month, we worked with him in this project. It was cool. But it wasn't really like the reason why we were in LA, right? Like we wanted to go out and like network and, things like Space Yacht started happening. And, you had Avalon.
Oh, yeah.
That, like whoever played, like there was a lot of people within the industry that would go there. And it would just be like, those were like really good spots to meet all these people.
Well, and that's got to be nice, starting off in Mexico and then being in Minnesota, neither of which are particularly well connected for the dance music, specifically the EDM world,
Yeah, exactly. So it was like a little like Space Out was really important, I guess, for us, growing up as a project, not because of the opportunities that they handed to us, but because of the relationships that we developed through there. And then obviously, everyone sort of created their own team. And that's what has made everyone, like every single project really grow individually and sort of like parallel to each other. Like everyone's kind of like on their own lane now, I believe. Like that's the way I see it. I'm like sitting kind of like in the back seat, and Americo's pretty much leading the project. But this is how I see, Boombox, and then like I see Keizo, and I see Nightmare, and all these projects are all doing really well, but like everyone's in their own lane.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an interesting idea, right? Because there is a certain point where everyone is sort of just all together, right? And you're all just, no one has sort of an established name yet. And you're all just kind of, you're in the same pool swimming around. And then I think you're absolutely right that the ones who make it out of it are the ones who find their own lane, the ones who are able to sort of carve out their own identity. And a big part of that, I like that you said that everyone got their own team, because I think that's a big part of it as well. Is you sort of have to find those like-minded people. You have to really collaborate and like ideate of, what is this? What does it look like? What does it sound like? Why is it different from everyone else? And it's interesting.
I mean, Americo did a great job like building out the team for Boombox, definitely.
Well, and he's always, I think you're good at this as well, but I've always thought of Americo, he has a vision and it's very specific, and he's not afraid to say, no, this doesn't work for me, this doesn't fit. But I also think that that's probably one of the reasons why Boombox has been able to get to the point where you guys are, is, that sort of just like single-minded focus.
Yeah, I agree. He's very goal-oriented, and like he will not rest until like shit happens, right?
Right. Yeah. 100%. It's I love talking about this kind of stuff, man, because I think the collaboration between you guys is really interesting because you're both, and correct me if you feel differently, but I think you're both very, very talented musicians. I think you're both very talented engineers. And that's not always the way a duo is. You know, sometimes in a duo, one person will be really good at mixing and engineering, and the other one will be, you know, really good at, the piano and composition. But I think when both of you guys have the ability to do it, then it becomes more about the ideas, right? And that's really interesting to me.
I've heard of a few projects where, you know, it's like a duo, but like one will take care of all the artistic, like visual stuff. Like one will literally take care of the art and the visuals and like the marketing strategy and like how it's gonna roll out and blah blah. Kind of like almost like an art manager / manager.
Yeah.
And the other guy is like, you know, like a super talented musician and also a producer. And the other guy kind of like just chips in.
Right.
So I mean, there's a lot of everything in this world. And I feel like, you know, at the end of the day, whatever makes the engines turn is...
Oh, absolutely. It's, I always say, I never really care about, you know, the back end of it. You know, even talking about something like ghost production and writing for other people, my question at the end of the day is like, is it a good song? That's really all I care about.
Yeah.
And as long as it's like, a good song,
is it good? Yeah, and you know, I have such a like an issue with you know, a lot of the heavier music right now, because I feel like everyone has lost all sense of like musicality, like especially what's going on with like the dubstep scene right now. Like a lot of songs are really cool and really like I don't know, like I don't even want to say names, but it's just like I feel like it's lost a lot of I don't know, like diversity within the music, like within the genre.
I
like
it
feels
man.
like it's just like noise. It's just like and just like.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I agree with you, but for me, I don't even have a problem with that specifically because I like, you know, taking things to an extreme. Like I'm super down for that. I think that's always a cool idea, is just to push a sound farther. So if you like, you know, unpleasant screeching robot noises, like, go all the way, like make it crazy. But I agree with you. It's the lack of diversity and the lack of creativity that's bothering me, because I think a few people have made really awesome music with that kind of really harsh vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
But then like everyone else is just trying to copy them.
Yeah, exactly. Like one of the guys that I think is really doing it like super properly and, you know, has kind of like become one of the head honchos within that sound is I forgot his name. The Sun and Death. Yes, that guy.
Yeah, he's killing it, man.
He's doing it well. Like,
I think he's doing it really well. And so, you know, to bring it back to you guys are out in LA, you know, Boombox is starting to get a name for yourselves. At a certain point, you know, Back to You just really explodes and kind of takes you guys to another level.
It's funny. Nobody wanted that song. Like sent it to Ausla. No, they didn't want it. Sent it to Matt Deason. They didn't want it. I think we shipped it to like a couple more, like probably maybe Dimog or something. Point is, nobody wanted it. Yeah. And we're just like, fuck it, free download, like with a gate or whatever. And it started picking up, and you know, people started playing it out, and just I remember like the first few people that we showed it to, it was Hayden, Hero Bus. And he was like, this is too weird, man. Like, I don't know. And we're like, that's the whole point, dude. Like, fuck yeah. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, which is funny coming from him, because I think that's all of his music, which I love very much. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, gets released, starts getting all this attention. And I remember there was this video of Skrill playing it at Red Rocks with his Dog Blood project. And it was like, okay, like, it's one of those like, oh, if Skrillex plays it, then I want to play it. So that shit blew up. And that's when we actually started getting like, eyes on us a whole lot.
What was that experience like? Not only sort of getting that recognition, but also starting to tour a lot more heavily.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it was fun and exciting, but do any memories pop out at you of that time?
I mean, there's a lot of really good memories, definitely. There's a lot of bad ones where I fucked up like super bad. Like I would just get too drunk and,
well, you always were
man.
the partier of the two.
Yeah, no, I mean, I still am, but like, now it's more so like I get it, it's, I like if I was to tour, I would not be like drinking heavily. Like
sure, of course. And
either prior, like before the show or after, like just like a couple of beers, it's like we're just hanging out, we're working.
Yeah,
and that's something that at the beginning you don't understand, or like you do understand it, but you're just like, I mean, at least for me that I enjoy a lot, just drinking and just having a good time. Whereas Americo, he doesn't really actually drink all that much. So to me, it was like, fuck yeah. Like, let's go. Like, this is fun. Let's make it fun.
Right. And I think that helped you guys as well, because again, this is the relationship dynamic.
Yeah, like a balance.
Yeah, there's the balance for you guys, like between yourselves, but then also for, you mentioned networking and starting to meet more people. I think it's really valuable sometimes to have that open energy. Anytime, I always loved hanging out with you guys. I liked both of you, but I knew anytime you were around that we were going to have a good time,
I'll take that as both a compliment and like something to meditate for a second.
Well, I only say it because that's not necessarily the way I feel about myself. Like, I don't think I'm the guy who walks into the party and immediately everybody else starts having more fun,
bitches.
Yeah. like I just have that awkward energy, and it's not a bad thing. I'm not talking down about myself, but I always admired people like you who I felt like you have that open energy,
Yeah. So, I mean, so it was Back to You. And then it was Aftershock with Nightmare, which was a cool song.
I still love that song.
Which was a good follow-up, definitely. It was a good follow-up for Boombox. Then I literally have the releases here in front of me because I forget, man. Like, seriously, I forget.
Well, you guys have done a lot, and you've done a lot separate from Boombox too, which I want to get into in a minute. But well, I mean, so before we even go any further, that's something I wanted to touch on, is that I feel like you really. Here's my impression of you, but I don't know if this is actually true. I feel like you're just writing music constantly, like all the time.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Like whether it's no, you're completely right. Like whether it's for me or for like, artists or like ghost production or just for like, the videos that I'm uploading.
How do you split your time? Because obviously you're making music for Boombox. You have the URBOI project, which is your solo project, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then I know you also do a ton of pop production. I know at a certain point you were doing some ghost production. Like, what's taking up, how do you budget your time?
I guess I prioritize, obviously within deadlines, and as of lately, things are slow. So I kind of try to prioritize whatever is just gonna help me make rent or whatever.
Of course.
Like I'll do some mixing and mastering for a few people, like 2-3 songs, and like I'm set for the month, like at least for rent and groceries.
Right.
So that stuff will, and it doesn't take me all that long too. So that will always come first for me because it's gotta have a fucking roof.
I mean, this is our job, man. Absolutely.
Exactly. And, aside from that, like all the actual creative side, I haven't been doing a whole lot of ghost production lately, mostly because I want, like, rather than like the upfront money, like I'm looking more so to, or like sell the song. I'm looking more to kind of build like my royalties empire, I guess I would say. So it's like, oh, like I can co-produce this if you want me to co-produce it. And like I will be credited and like you will pay me as a co-producer, not as a, like a ghost producer.
Right. Well, that's a smart thing.
And a lot of people don't want that.
Yeah. Well, of course, people don't want that. People don't want it, A, because of egos, right? And B...
Yeah, it's literally just an ego thing.
Yeah. Well, and also, I think it's also because they just don't want to give up a piece of the song, right? They'd much rather pay a fee upfront, which I think you're smart to reject and to ask for, just actual credit on the song, because that's
like a chunk of the backside.
Right, because that's, money that can be coming into you for years to come rather than sort of an immediate payoff. When did you get into pop production? Because I know, you have like platinum records at this point, right?
Yeah, I literally just got certified for that. I got made this reggaeton song with Ghetto Kids, Shadow Ghetto Kids, Matt Fuentes, and Wino, who is like a really big artist now. And Toy Selecta. You know Toy, right?
I do, man. Toy Selecta is such a legend.
Yeah, he's I fucking love him. He took me under his wing for that song and a few other projects, and yeah, so I mean, he invited me to a session one day, and this song was, kind of like 50% through, or like maybe 70, I don't know. They just kind of like needed some specific sounds or like a way to make it feel fuller or like more melodically driven, I suppose. Like it was only like a beat with a vocal.
Right.
And then, I jumped in, did my part, and then fast forward like 8 months or something, and it's like a 2 times multi-platinum and like platinum and gold record, which is pretty dope.
It's amazing.
It's my first one.
Yeah, so, congrats on that.
I mean, I have a lot of room in I have some big walls in my room, so I definitely look forward to like hang that somewhere.
Oh man, yeah, that's going to be amazing when that shows up. And it's cool to just see you expanding into other avenues.
I listen to a lot of like Latin music over here, obviously, and it just kind of like it was very organic, like how I started. Actually, it was always something that I really enjoyed, but it was never something that I made.
Right.
And it was a good organic, and it was something that I wanted to make happen. Whether it's like the reggaeton or like dance hall or like sort of like the trappier stuff with merengue or it's fun. Like I feel like that's what is very important about the Latin music culture. Like it's fun. All the music is fun.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's fun in a different way than, say, American pop is fun, right?
Yeah, like a hip hop tune that is like, oh, like this goes hard. And it's like, yes, but this has a lot of spice to it. Like,
right. There's something about, there's something about Latin pop that's, it's not that they embrace like a corniness. I'm not finding the exact word, but there's something about, it's like they don't even care if you think it's corny. It's like, we're just out here having fun. It's that's the vibe.
Yeah, the percussive work is a big
factor, the rhythms, of course.
Yeah. I can't like pin it down when I started, working on pop stuff. I'm just glad it happened.
Yeah.
It's
one big shout out to Toy Selecta, who, for people who might not know, I mean, he's sort of the bridge between Mexico's, electronic musicians and pop musicians, and then the bridge between that and like the EDM scene in America. He's like one of those behind the scenes people who just constantly is linking people together and bringing people up.
Yeah, I remember. I think he showed me a couple years ago. There's like first compilation of Mad Decent, like volume 1 or whatever. And, it was like, Diplo and Dave Nada and like Toy Selecta. And I was like, what, dude? Like,
Yeah.
that's so crazy. And I don't even know what the song was, but it was just like this dude's been at it for the longest time ever.
For so long, man. How long into the sort of explosion of Boombox, when you guys were touring all over the place and the songs were all popping off, how long did you have before, all of this crazy visa stuff happened? Was it just like about a year, couple of years?
It was literally a year because LA was, so we're at 2020. So that would be 2014. So we moved to LA on 2014, like May or something. And then it was August 2015 when the whole visa stuff happened. It was 1 year into LA, and then I got sent back.
And just very quickly, because I know you've talked.
Sounds very ugly.
Well, right, exactly. But for the people who don't know, I know you've talked about this a million times. I mean, basically, what, you just stayed on the visa too long, or were on the wrong?
Yeah, it was literally that. So I was already working on getting I had literally had all the paperwork for the work visa, and I just needed $3,000. Just the small amount. It was literally that. And like looking back, I remember Americo, he told me like his parents could hook it up, and kind of like a paid forward type of thing. And I was like in denial, absolute denial. And looking back, I mean, I don't regret anything that's happened, but I feel like the project would have taken like just this wild turn. Like, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Things happen for a reason. I'm a huge believer in that. So
you a spiritual guy in general?
Not really. I'm just like a go with the flow type of person.
Yeah. You're like making the best out of any situation.
Exactly. Like there's got to be like a silver lining to everything. So there's, it's literally just balance. There's good things that come out of bad shit, and there's really bad shit that comes out of good things.
Yeah, I mean, because that must have been really hard at the start. Not only just not being able to come back to LA and your life that you had built there, but then seeing the project still taking off, still going crazy, and not being able to, we were just talking about the touring and the partying and having fun. Yeah. It must have been really frustrating to not be able to participate.
Yeah, at first, exactly. Yeah, at first, definitely it was rough. Like, shit. It was depressing. Like, I gained a lot of weight. Like, I was just not really in a good place, mentally. And, eventually you have to pick yourself up. Like it was, I don't remember exactly when it was that I was like, I cannot carry on with this lifestyle. I was like going to bed super late, waking up even way later, just like eating really shit food and not working out. And then I was working on music. Like that was also at the time we were writing the Cartel EP. So I think I was just like what really drove me to drive to work hard on music, not hardly, but hard.
Yeah.
To work very hard on music. It was the fact that I was trying to appeal for what was the name? Basically, I was just trying to get the band removed, and I was very hopeful about this stuff. And then applied once, got rejected. Applied twice, got rejected. This would be over the span of like maybe a year and a half. After the second time, I was like, yeah, this cannot go any longer. Like, I need to pick myself up. So I did. On a side note, at the moment when I was working on music with Americo, I was very reliant on his skills and his knowledge as far as like sound design and mixing and just everything on the technical side. Yeah. And it was one of those moments where it was like, shit, like now I got to do all this stuff on my own to be able to actually like have quality demos to like send over.
Sure, of course.
So,
I mean, that's a really interesting point, right? Is not only does the nature of touring and the nature of your relationship change, but also you're just physically not in the same place anymore to write music together, right?
Yeah.
So both of you guys have to figure out a new way to even just write music.
Yeah, at first we used Splice and it was all right, and then we switched to Dropbox. It's way better.
And I remember too, man, because I was working with Conrad at the time, and we were all sort of together as this was happening. You know, it was such an emotional ride, just even for me, watching it happen.
Like on a side.
Well, yeah, and just watching, Conrad try to figure out solutions to get you back in the country, and hearing him talk to you. And I mean, you guys did all kinds of crazy stuff, didn't like? We did all. Diplo and Skrillex wrote you letters, right?
Yeah. Literally everyone that I can remember wrote us letters, like GTA, Skrillex, Diplo, Diversifying.
To submit to the government, saying that you were...
Exactly.
Yeah. It's nuts, man. And for you, I can totally understand how after a certain point, if it still wasn't working, you would almost have to remove yourself from that situation just to like level out your emotions, right? Because that would drive you crazy after a while.
Yeah, no, it definitely... It took me to bad places, because it's like you put literally all your hope on this thing, and all your hopes, and it just like gets torn to shreds twice, and it's like, fuck, man, like I'm like, fuck this shit, I'm gonna stop doing that.
Yeah,
like let's do something for like that's gonna make me feel better, like
well, it's like how long can you put your life on hold,
Exactly. And that was the moment where I was like, okay, like I am not going to try, like this is the way it's going to be. Okay, let's make the best out of these like 3.5 years that we have left. So, started just becoming a healthier person all around, and like started actually focusing more on what I was, supposed to do as 50% of the project, or part of the project, I would say.
Right. Well, and it's just sort of redefining your role a little bit, right? Because it's still very much a partnership, but it's just you don't tour now, because obviously you
yeah. And I did a few tours. Like I think the last one I did was Australia, like
right,
not this but like last year over New Year's and Christmas. That was the last tour I did. And also I think I did like China, I did Europe, and I like we came to the conclusion that I'm not very responsible on tour. So I guess that's. I remember in Europe, like my phone got lost, which was really shitty, and that didn't help out like the whole situation, right?
Yeah.
We came to the conclusion like I should, like, they have this sort of way of working, like, Americo and like, everyone on the tour side. And I just like, I didn't really fit in that. Like I had trouble fitting into this mold, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. And, we decided that it was like the best for the whole project and for everyone, for me not to, be part of the tours.
Right.
And also, aside from that, like, the responsibility side of things, it was really, it started becoming kind of like a thing, like bad business, sort of like promoters were seeing this as bad business, mostly in the United States, because I would go to, China, or like I would go to Australia or wherever, Canada, and, they would see me in the pictures or in the video or whatever. And they would be like, well, why is he not fucking coming to the States? Like, if you're going to promote 2 people in the project, then I want 2 people.
Right.
And so Americo told me this, and he was like, are you cool with like taking a step back from the tour side? I was like, dude, absolutely. Like whatever's like the best thing for the project. So we did that.
Yeah.
It was a combination of both things. Like, like me being an asshole, and the whole looking for a brighter future for the project and not being seen as like, a project that does bad business.
No, of course, that makes total sense. And I think that's a very practical way. Like, I think it's cool that you were sort of able to just, internalize that and come to that same conclusion. I do wonder.
Yeah, I mean, it came with a lot of like, conversations and like some good ones, some bad ones. And, at the end of the day, what matters the most is that, I'm aware of these things, and like both on the personal side and also on the professional side. So
right, of course, because again, I mean, we already touched on this, but it is a job, and you do have to make business decisions. And I think
obviously
and
that was a big business decision, and I had to literally let go of all of my ego, in order to be okay with that. And at the moment I was like kind of iffy on it, but now I'm completely okay with it. Like, it's just, he kills it. And like the entire team on the tour kills it. And it's just so exciting for me to see the growth and how, it keeps evolving.
Absolutely, man. I mean, it's crazy to me. And this is just sort of a universal life lesson, but it's crazy to me. The second you can take the ego out of whatever you're doing, all of a sudden you can see it in such a different way. All these other doors open up, that you never would have seen before. And I think about that for you. I mean, look at what you're doing now, like the URBOI project, right? Which probably you wouldn't have had a chance to do if you were still just trying to get back into, the old life.
Yeah, exactly. And, it took me some time. Absolutely. I think I was mostly afraid of like, starting over, I guess. It's like,
of course, which is very relatable. I mean,
obviously,
man.
with a certain amount of knowledge within the industry and a certain amount of support, because some people here and there, and at the end of the day, it was just out of fear. And you just gotta, fear is awful, man. So I was like, fuck it, let's go. And then I spoke with Shine Giles. Shine?
I don't know if I do.
He's a super dope producer and DJ from Las Vegas. I think it's from San Diego or Las Vegas. I don't know.
Okay.
Point is, I showed him like a bunch of my house demos, and he took the liberty of sending them to Musical Freedom, which is he's signed to that label without consulting me, and next thing I know is like, Tiesto really likes like 2 or 3 of your songs. Like, he wants to sign them to Musical Freedom. I was like, what? I was like, what? Like, what? When did this happen? I was like, I sent those songs. I was like, oh, well, thanks, man. Fuck you, but thanks.
Right. Yeah, that's a weird moment, because that's definitely not something he should have done. But then maybe also
I know it came from a good place.
No,
it came from a good place. I know that.
Of course. And then it's the kick in the ass for you, right? To take this, sort of
it's like
side project.
Like, this is happening.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I was like, okay, like this is a good way to kickstart the project. Like, you start with a whole lot of credibility, or like, it's a really good label.
Dude, yeah, you're starting off with one of the top labels, and now you just dropped the next record on Spinnin' as well, right?
Well, the video went on Spinning, and the song is originally signed to Musical Freedom.
Okay,
but it's kind of like Spinning is the umbrella for all these labels.
Right. And that the new one is Soul Groove, right?
Soul Groove, yeah.
Just I really like that one.
Funky bassline stuff. Yeah, and I have a lot of house stuff. I have a lot of reggaeton, and I have a lot of this, a lot of that. I think I've come to a point where personally, I just want to make music that is fun to me. Is like, it doesn't matter if it's like a trap song, or it doesn't matter if I put out this record or that record, like if they're completely different, like people will have their perception. Like I actually get people asking me on Instagram, like, but like, what is your genre? And it's like all of them, like, dude,
Right.
like I cannot help it. Like if I can create them all and if I can just put it out as myself, why not?
Oh, absolutely, man. And I think that's only, each style that you explore, it's only going to help you in other styles, Because this goes back to what we were talking about, dubstep and these like sort of copycat songs, right? Is that I think there's just not, people are pulling from too small a pool of ideas, and the second you start working in other genres and opening up to other sounds, then all of a sudden your main thing, whatever it is, it gets freshened up by all these new ideas, right?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, man. I'm really happy with where things are at. All the videos that I've been putting out, like they're fun. People are, having a good time with them. And I guess it's nice to know like that. A lot of people have been telling me too, like, dude, like honestly, like every now and then, like I'll feel just like fuck, like this quarantine just sucks, and I'll just go and like watch your videos, and like they're super fun, and like I'm really happy.
We should mention that for a second is, you have been putting out a bunch of video content as well, right? And and it's related just, to your music, but it's also kind of just funny in its own right.
Yeah. There's this word I'm looking up right now.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it exists. Leisure.
That's a word.
Make sense?
That's a word.
Like, does that make sense? Like these videos are just me doing dumb stuff because I'm bored.
Right. But it's in a way that people connect with. And I think this goes back to that sort of just open person that you are that I was talking about. I think, you can kind of just put yourself out there and people immediately are drawn to it, which is, I don't know, man. I think that's it's like a superpower sort of.
I'm just glad people are having a good time with whatever is coming out of my head.
Would you go
like
back?
If it puts a smile on their face, like that to me is just amazing. Like, and obviously, if they tell you like, dude, like your videos like make me laugh a lot. That's just kind of like the approval that we're talking about earlier about with the music. It's like that external approval. It's like, dude, I really like what you're doing. Like, keep doing it because, it like gets me through, whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, absolutely, man. And would you, if URBOI keeps, seeing a lot of success, would you go back on tour as a different project? Is that something you think about?
I mean, I played at EDC Mexico, which was dope. And that was definitely not like a DJ, like a club DJ sort of show. Obviously that was fun. If I get to play festivals, I will literally go all out and.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I'm asking is that a goal for you? Is that something you'd like to do in the future?
It's a good source of income.
Yeah, it is that.
Like that's the main reason why I would, go on tour. Maybe not as hard, like 3 shows per weekend, or I would probably do like one weekend out of a month. I would go on tour like 3 days, or 4 days, like fucking Wednesday, Friday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, get it out of the way and like just sort of like come back and fall back into the grind of making music, which is honestly, and what I feel is what I'm good at.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's a good answer. I think it's everything in moderation. It's what you were saying earlier about, drinking and partying too. It's, it's all in moderation. Go have the fun, get back to what's important.
Oh, and obviously if I'm going to have 4 back-to-back shows, I'm not going to go and drink myself.
Oh, no. Obviously. Yeah. I'm just saying it seems like that's a very balanced perspective. I think that's a healthy perspective to have.
Yeah. By the way, I am not an alcoholic. I swear to God. I just really like booze. It's fun.
Hey, man, I feel that strongly. and it's interesting too, because you mentioned the the 5-year ban, right? Which I wanted to make sure people understood is that when you got, sent out of the U.S., you couldn't come back
Deported.
for 5 years. Yeah, deported, whatever you want to call it.
Such an ugly word, man.
I was trying to be polite, but
I know.
But that 5-year ban, I mean, that must be almost up, right? Or it is up?
Yeah, it's literally up in August. Like August 1st, it's up. So we're like talking 3 months. But who's trying to go back right now?
Well, this is my question. We'll talk about fucking COVID in a second, but
I don't want to talk about COVID,
even if I don't either, man. I'm actually glad we've gotten this far without really talking about it.
Yeah, right. It was very sporadically.
No, we did great. I'm super happy about that. But
Hell yeah.
For you, say coronavirus didn't even exist and the 5-year ban is lifted. Are you established in this life in Monterey? Are you just going to stay there and chill? Do you want to come back to the States? Where's your head at with that?
I'm not entirely sure. This is something that, I've open conversation with Americo about. And I don't think, like, obviously a part of me wants to go back to the tour, or like to the touring side of things. But I feel like they got it down so properly now. Like it's like it works so well that I don't like it becomes like an expense first off. Like because you have to pay a hotel room, a flight, and whatnot. And he's already killing it. Like the fact that I'm on tour is not gonna, help us. We could do like a little tour, like a 5-show tour where it's like, oh, like Jorge is back. Bitches.
Yeah. Make it like a special event. I like that idea.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, I don't feel like there's a need for me to go back because everything is being done so properly that, they got a workflow and I don't want to sort of put my foot or like intervene.
But even if you didn't go back on tour, I mean, just living in the States, working in the States, is that something you would think about, or are you just comfortable in Monterey?
I mean, dude, obviously I'm super comfortable in Monterey. It's a great spot. I have my apartment and I'm chill. Like this works for me.
Yeah.
I have, numerous projects. I have like a I don't know how to say it in English, but I guess it's just like a group of friends of mine who I work with, and we make pop stuff for artists, and that's a really nice project because there's a lot of work to get done there,
right?
And I would obviously really love to work in the States, but at the same time, getting the work visa is a fucking pain in the ass. And even more so right now. I feel like a really good alternative would be get a tourist visa, a regular tourist visa, and sort of whenever this whole thing is over, go back to or have sessions with Americo, like set up like a writing camp for like a week
just get back to writing in person. That could be
exactly
fun.
Like in the same room. Exactly. Like I don't know, this is just me. Like these are some of the things that I've sort of thought.
Right.
Like that could be a possibility. Like in regardless of if I go back on tour. No, actually no. If I don't go back on the tour, there's no need for me to get a work visa because I'm not getting paid to go into these sessions.
Yeah, I mean, that's literally what the tourist, you would literally be a tourist, Yeah,
I would literally just be a tourist and I'm just like making music. I feel like, I don't know, we'll see.
Only question I'm going to ask about coronavirus is, it's interesting to me launching the project, the URBOI project, and being a new artist in the time of coronavirus.
Yeah.
Because I think people can't go to shows, and obviously you're not playing shows, but just in general, every DJ is live streaming. Everyone's putting out tons of content. Does that change the way you think about presenting a new project when the global climate is just so crazy?
I think that for me, like the way for my growth and like my content needs to keep being like all these like TikTok videos, like making the song or remixing that song or blah, blah, blah. Like that's kind of like the way that people have identified me. Like that's the way that I will be able to entertain them.
Yeah, that's the hook.
And
right?
also, I don't own CDJs or like a controller, so that just kind of makes things difficult for me as far as like streaming. It's it's a double-edged sword. Like it can be both really good because people are going to be aware of what you're doing no matter what, because most of the time they're going to be on their phone. So
yeah, and if you're making the little digestible bites that people can watch when they're bored, which
it's just like a little 1 minute bite. It takes you 1 minute. If you want to watch it twice, it takes 2 minutes.
But that's a good pitch for it.
No, dude, hell yeah, dude. Can you put that on my when I die? Just write that shit down.
Put it on your gravestone, baby.
On my gravestone, yeah. But yeah, so. It really, it's both good and bad. Like I said, it can be good because people are watching.
Yeah.
And
if you're not looking at this project as a touring project, then maybe it's maybe you're more
exactly.
built
I'm not a
for
touring
it.
project.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but on the other side, it would be really cool to be able to sort of put this product, I guess, or like this project in front of people's eyes. On a larger, like, not that the internet is not the larger scale, but I mean, there's a difference between.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, you can't get that shot of Tiesto playing your song in front of 30,000 people right now,
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I will always try to stay with the positive end of things. So I'm just really happy that, people are very into the stuff that I'm making, and whether it's the video or how funny it is or the music that's coming out of the video, at the end of the day, it's I think that we're all in a time, in a moment where we can really just focus on creating a lot.
Yeah. Yes.
And if you're not like taking advantage of all this time to create whatever it is that you do or that you want to do, then and then instead of you're like watching Netflix, then I think you're just being very inconsiderate with yourself.
I like that, man. That's a really good perspective to have. Yeah, this has been great, man. It's fucking great to see you.
Dude, you too, man.
I'm stoked on everything you're doing, man. All the new music is great.
I will send over some more URBOI stuff.
Oh, please. Yeah. I got to send you some new shit too. I want to get your take on it.
Please do.
Yeah, man.
Fuck yeah.
And all right, one last question and we're out of here. This is the question I ask at the end of each episode. Just looking for a time, a moment, a memory in your life, from any time in your life, when in a moment, music really meant something to you, really had a deep impact on you.
One of the most exciting moments that I know that I've ever lived, like through music, was that I literally just spoke about it. That moment when my dad was like, "This is cool." Like when I, chopped up Carmina Burana into an electro house song.
Yeah, I
remember that being like, I mean, it was my first song and it didn't sound too shitty. So I was like, and I wish I still had it. But I remember that just being a very big moment for me. Like I was like probably 17 or something. And, my dad's approval of like, me going into something completely different than classical music was like, fuck it. Like this is awesome. Like this is good. Like I can.
Yeah, man, that moment of acceptance is huge. And also for you, I'm sure, sort of realizing that you can combine two different worlds and two sounds and two eras. Yeah. Just that simple concept.
It was mostly because I went in not expecting anything, and he was like, "I actually like this." And funny enough, fast forward like 10 years, I just put out that it was a reggaeton song that samples Feliz by Beethoven.
Right.
And I sent it to him and he was like, I really like this. And I was like, fuck yeah. Like we're still in the same place 10 years later. Like,
that's so cool. That's such a full circle moment.
He's not snobby about, the whole classical side of things. So
yeah. Well, I think that also takes
really,
us all the way back around to that moment of validation, right? Where you have an idea, but no one else has told you yet that it's a good idea. And then once you get that, especially from a parent who you look up to, that's so much validation and so much encouragement that you're on the right path. That's great, man. I love that.
Yeah, man. He's the OG.
I love you, man. It's great to see you. It's great to talk to you.
Dude, great to see you too, man. Thanks for having me in the episode.
Oh, dude, thank you. Anytime. Next time we'll do it in person.
Shout out to everyone who made it this far. All
right, man. Take care. Peace.
All right, peace out, bye.
That's the show. Shout out to your boy. Shout out to Jorge. Great to talk to you, man. For everybody out there listening, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Don't forget, there's a link in the description of this episode where you can go keep up with your boy, keep up with all the hilarious videos that Jorge is posting. Obviously, keep up with Boombox Cartel. Between all of his projects, Jorge is just unstoppable right now. You can always keep up with me as well at Willy Joy or at Back to Back Pod on all social media. Come join the Back to Back Discord. I cannot emphasize this enough. We're having a great time in there, and we want you to join. The link for that is also in the description of this episode. That's it for this week. Next week is the 3-year anniversary of the show. God damn, I am excited. I'm not even going to give you a hint, but it's going to be good. You're going to want to check back in. I can promise you that. And until then, I hope you're doing well. Take care of yourself. Take care of the people around you, wherever you're at, whatever your situation is. I'm happy to have such a great community behind this show. As always, we would love your support. If you want to support Back to Back, the best way to do that is by helping to spread the word. Tell a friend about us. Put up a tweet, let people know you're listening, tag us in your stories. I'm always responding, reposting, replying, talking to you guys anytime I see that we're getting tagged in those posts. And shout out to everybody who's been supporting every single week. It means a lot to me, and I love connecting with the listeners. It's really the best part of doing this show. So that's it. I've said my piece. I hope you're doing well. Take care of yourself, and I will talk to you next Tuesday. For Back to Back, this is Willy Joy. Peace.